Good evening. Thank you for watching our current affairs update in English. Today we're covering technology news updates, and I am with Professor Alexiei Dingli. Thank you very much for welcoming us here today.
Welcome, my pleasure.
I'd like to speak about some current news, the flights to space which are now available for the public also. What are your thoughts about that?
You have to afford them first of all. But yes, definitely. I think it's a very important improvement, especially because now we're opening space as well for, let's say, the common people who can afford it, because it's still quite out of reach for a lot of people. But I think the fact that we're looking beyond our planet now, that makes it the most exciting. Let's say we've seen earlier in this year the Mars mission as well, that landed on Mars. So we're seeing this renewed interest in places beyond now our Earth, and of course making it accessible for everyone. It's a very important, because now the possibilities are endless really, and we have a lot of space, so might as well utilize it as well.
Do you see those flights becoming available here in Malta?
Yes, I don't see why not. In fact, I believe either last year or the one before, there were plans to launch the first Maltese satellite. Now, of course, when we're saying satellite, it's a tiny box, really and truly, but it's still a satellite that's going up in space. So I think space exploration is a very important part of our future, and we should start looking at those elements. Also, keep in mind that a lot of children dream of becoming an astronaut now, and now it can become a reality for them as well.
To the next generation of dreamers, if we can do this, just imagine what you can do.
We hear about, over the last few years, the gig economy. How realistic is that? I mean, it is considered to be the future. Do you think that's going to become a norm in Malta?
Yes, I'm sure that the gig economy will become something normal for not just for Malta, but I dare to say for most of the world, simply because it offers a much bigger flexibility. And I think this flexibility was something which we tasted when we went through the pandemic now, because people needed to be flexible. Working from the office became something extremely rare now, and people could work from home. So remote working took this big launch. But having said that, even the employers started to appreciate what their employees could do if they were given the opportunity to work remotely. So that's why I think, yes, that the gig economy will become big, especially because now from home you can do even a part-time job now, and technically you don't even have to stay at home now. You can go to other countries. We've seen these digital nomad visas as well. So I think, yes, the world of work is becoming extremely flexible, and we should see much more openings in the gig economy as well.
So virtual meetings are here to stay. For those who are very reliant on the travel industry, hotel industry, how is that going to affect them when obviously people are going to meet more virtually? There are going to be more virtual conferences.
Yes. Well, I think that virtual meetings are extremely important. I find them at least very efficient, because you just go for the meeting and that's it. But then on the other side, on the flip side, we know that there's that element of socialization which is practically missed from these virtual meetings. Sorry. So what I believe will happen is that there will be a mix of both. So if it's just a very technical meeting, or rather a mechanical meeting which you should have, then having it virtual is more than enough. But if you want to go beyond that, if I look at the academic conferences, for example, it's true we go to learn more about the new innovations and stuff, but there's the social element which is very important, because we forge collaborations with our peers which come from abroad. So in that case, the social aspect is as important as the technological aspect. So I think in most cases there will still be the need for the virtual meetings, but there will be other events where there will be a mix of both.
So more like team building, you mean?
Team building, but you know, technically you're not really a team in these conferences. You're still building the collaborations, and that is the value which these conferences do. Because even though if virtual conferences have virtual foyers or virtual breakout rooms or whatever, but they can't replace the face-to-face interaction. You know, after all, something which we lose from the mediation within these virtual conferences is that the tiny, the micro emotions which we express to each other, that is totally lost. So by going to these conferences in presence, you manage to get this information from the other, and you know whether that person is open to collaboration or not, and that will foster future collaborations.
So you think corporates will still be investing in?
Yes, but I think there will be this mix of both. So you know, for the technical stuff, you go for the virtual, but when it's more a people thing where you need to come up with collaborations, projects and stuff, then you need the in-presence meetings.
In simplistic terms, how would you describe twin technology? We read a lot about that also.
Okay, twin technology is a very recent emerging technology, and the idea is to create virtual replicas or virtual copies of something. So I'm saying something because it could be a citizen twin. So governments are looking at citizen twins, whereby the government would have a virtual copy of a person. So the personal information of that person, the preferences of that person, and the idea there is, for example, that you know, if there's a new service or a new scheme which that person can get benefit from, then of course, you know, by having a virtual twin, it will apply directly for that particular service without having to go through loads of paperwork and stuff. Digital twin as well is very important, for example, in industry, whereby companies have digital twins or digital copies of their machines. So imagine if I'm a CEO and I'm abroad, I can know exactly what's happening inside my plant up to the level of a single machine, if it's working, if it got stuck, if it has a problem, so on and so forth. And I can virtually control it at a distance as well. So there are loads of advantages with regards to digital twins, and I think that in the near future we'll see many more examples of these digital twins.
About artificial intelligence when it's applied to marketing and seeing what people's preferences are. Where does one draw the line with data protection and protecting your own privacy?
Okay, so data protection is extremely important when we're talking about these things, because let's not forget that AI is very data hungry, and you know, when AI gets to know your preferences, then of course it can use that either in your favor or against you. Now, against you, a typical case in point is what happened with Cambridge Analytica. So they were learning the people's preferences from Facebook and then using them to manipulate those people, and that is where, you know, things starts going badly. In fact, recently, earlier this year, the European Union proposed a set of legislation, and one of the things they will forbid in the European Union is precisely the manipulation of people using AI. So that is something which the laws hopefully will take care of. But you know, there are other cases where it is quite positive to have such systems. For example, an advertisement. You know, we're overwhelmed with lots of advertising messages, and personally, I would like to see adverts which are really of interest to me and not anything else. So in that case, you know, it's a good thing. But if it's used for manipulation, then it becomes a bad thing. So I think we have to draw the line, and we retain what is good, but we discard what is not so good.
been a lot of advances in mobile technology. How far ahead are we in Malta? Are we sort of experiencing cutting edge mobile
Yes,
technology?
technically we are. Even recently, one of the mobile operators launched the 5G, which is the fastest network available at the moment in the world. And at the moment, they're also piloting in Tokyo, in Japan, the 6G as well. So just to give you an example of how fast the 6G is, imagine Netflix, all the movies in Netflix, they can be downloaded in half a second. So we're talking about massive speeds now. But in Malta, we have 5G, which is one of the fastest available commercially in the world. So I think we're doing quite fine. And also probably later on this year or next year, we're expecting that companies such as Apple also start releasing their augmented reality glasses. So these are glasses which you put on, very similar to reading glasses, and essentially they augment or they show you additional information automatically. So imagine you're going in a shop, you're shopping with these glasses, and you can see information about a particular dress or the sizes which they have or what they have in stock, the different colors, all virtually through your glasses. So this is the future which hopefully will come in the next few months.
That's absolutely incredible, really.
Yes, and there's already research going on for similar glasses or similar technology as contact lenses. So you don't even need the glasses eventually, but that's a little bit more far off. But having said this, I think this technology will become available in the coming months. So hopefully we'll see some exciting new applications coming up.
I think it will literally change everyone's lives.
Yes. And people are saying that it will be the mobile phone killer eventually, because you don't need a mobile phone, so you have these glasses. Another important technology associated with it, which I believe will make giant leaps in the coming 10 years, is what is known as natural language processing. So it's about having the computer understanding natural languages such as English, Italian, Maltese, so that the new interface is not via a pointer using your finger or a mouse or whatever, but by talking to a computer. We already see Alexa now and Siri and whatever, but these are much more advanced. We can have a natural conversation with them like we're having over here.
That's amazing. You mentioned 5G and that we might see 6G coming up very soon. There's been quite a lot of resistance by certain groups, even here in Malta, about 5G. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, there's no need for this resistance, based upon the monitoring of the Malta Communications Authority and other authorities. We know that 5G is relatively safe, so there is really no need for worrying. I've heard a lot of stories that they kill birds or whatever, but most of them are not real stories, and if they were not safe, I'm sure that no government would have legislated in favor of 5G.
I mean, I've heard theories also that 5G is connected with the coronavirus. A lot of conspiracy theories.
I've heard a lot of yes, in fact, one of the most famous is that apparently Bill Gates is creating these vaccines for corona, or he's behind them somehow, which will implant these chips in us, which will modify our DNA, and using 5G, an AI will control us eventually. I think it's very far-fetched. I think it's more far-fetched than a Hollywood movie, to be honest with you. First of all, because the vaccine is 100% safe. I mean, of course, there are issues with some side effects. That's a fact, but it's a fact with any medicine, and you can't have something which is 100% for everyone. Okay, but for the general population, it is extremely safe. And having said that, this issue of the DNA is completely false. The issue of the AI controlling you is completely false as well. So definitely, unfortunately, when you're faced with conspiracy theories, you have to look at the root of from where they're coming, if they're based on some scientific study, and then take a decision whether you should believe them or not.
As the world's older population grows, what are your thoughts about innovations in ambient assisted living?
Okay, so my thoughts is that we will become more and more dependent on these technologies, simply because they're there to help us live a better life. And that's the ultimate aim of these technologies. So just to give an example, a few projects which we had, for example, was the installation of camera systems inside people's home, obviously with their consent, whereby you would have an AI monitoring what's happening inside the home, and if that person, for example, falls in the middle of the night and he's lying on the floor, the AI can detect that fact and of course raise the alert. So these are people-saving technologies, and as I see it, I think more of these technologies will be integrated in the homes, simply because as well, it's much more expensive to institutionalize people. So rather than going for that approach, we keep people inside their home, keep them safe because they're being monitored by the technology, and not uproot them from the community, which I think is much more valuable for the person.
I'd like to refer to blockchain technology, which has proved to be robust. It's very often associated with cryptocurrencies that perhaps are not linked to sovereign currencies, bitcoins that fluctuate. Can you shed some light on the mechanics about how this works?
I think we should keep the two elements separate.
Absolutely. But I believe that most people don't realize that the two are separate.
For most people, blockchain and Bitcoin are the same thing. All right. So Bitcoin is a cryptocurrency, as you correctly stated, which is built on top of blockchain. So blockchain is more the infrastructure underneath Bitcoin. But they are two separate things, and blockchain is very important, not just for the cryptocurrency, but for other things. One of them is, for example, smart contracts. So imagine now we have a contract, me and you, and we agree on repayments. Maybe I bought a car from you, and these repayments are automatically executed via the program. So smart contracts are a very important technology, which unfortunately don't get as much featured as much as Bitcoin. But Bitcoin is a totally separate kettle of fish, and as you correctly said as well, the problem with these currencies is that they fluctuate a lot. Just recently we've seen that Elon Musk decided not to accept Bitcoin for purchases of Tesla cars, and all of a sudden the Bitcoin fell down, and now he's saying that he might reverse the decision and the Bitcoin is going up. So it's not a very stable currency, and I would be wary really of investing in Bitcoin, simply because it fluctuates so much. But the technologies should be separated, even though one is built on top of the other. Blockchain is a very important technology, and I think it needs more time to mature, but in the near future it will have much more applications than we have today.
I know one of your specialities is digital games. What role do they play, or can they play, in education and also in children with autism and learning difficulties?
Okay, so digital games are extremely important because one of the major elements of games is having fun. And personally, I believe that even education should be about having fun. And I think the best kind of education is where you have fun, and as an accidentally you learn. So that should be the main aim of education. Now, digital games will help to support that concept. Why? Because the children are playing a game, and accidentally, as part of that game, they are also learning. So they're having fun whilst learning as well. So I think that's what we should be striving for. Unfortunately, along the years, a lot of software tried to create a learning software which also had some elements of fun, but that traditionally doesn't work that much, because children realize that it's all about work, really and truly. But I think if we infuse them well, I think we can manage to get this. And you can see it especially with children with special needs. One of the projects I'm involved in is called Smart Clap, and we are trying to create this game to help children with cerebral palsy. So the idea is that they have this special band over here, and they move their hand, because they are playing a game. So it could be catching something or pushing a ball or whatever. But as they do that, they're exercising their hand as well. So back to what I told you before, they're having fun, but they're doing their therapy in this case. And I think that is what we should be trying to do. If we do that, we can achieve much more with children. In fact, about 2 years ago, we did an experiment on personalized learning. So the idea was to give children personalized education, but based upon their own individual abilities. And something which was quite amazing for us really is that the children that benefited the most were those categorized as as low achievers. Why? Because they were focusing on their weaknesses. They were not just doing all the exercises which the teacher gave them. And I think this is much more effective, and we can help these children achieve much more. So I think if we can manage to marry education and gaming, I think the two are extremely explosive, and we can get some incredible results with our kids.
And games are also very important to quite a lot of adults.
Of course.
How do you think people who focus and spend a lot of time on games, digital games, can have more social interaction?
I think games actually throughout the pandemic were extremely important, specifically for this reason. In fact, I believe it was the World Health Organization who suggested that more people should engage in gaming. Why? Because today's games are more of a social kind of games. So I'm playing a game, but it's a co-op game. I'm playing with someone else. And whilst I'm playing, I'm communicating with that person. So whereas during the pandemic, we were all locked inside, we couldn't communicate, but because of games, we had to communicate with our friends, with our peers. So that was extremely important. Now, of course, we're moving out of the pandemic, hopefully, and over there, games are still important, but we shouldn't then, discount the games which we play with our friends outside in the fresh air. So I think the most important thing is to strike that balance. So computer games are important, but you also have to need that amount of gaming which you do with your friends outside and having fun.
Are you involved in any cutting-edge technology projects? If so, we'd like to hear from you. Thank you very much. To round off for today, our news on technology for this month, can you conclude for today?
Sure, I think technology is extremely important. Personally, it excites me a lot, because the thing is that you can do so much, you can affect so many lives with technology, and personally I find it a very exciting field of study. I urge more people to get into technology, get to know, read, research and stuff, and I think if we manage to use technology for good, I think we can achieve great things together. Thank you very much. Thank you. I am with Professor Alexiei Dingli. Thank you for watching our technology news update. I'm Hogg for Net TV. I'll see you next week. Should you have any comments, please send them to the number that appears on the screen. Good evening.